Hello, it's time for our book study on Rise of the False Gods. Tonight we are going to be looking at sin, and more sin. Last night we began the topic of sin, and I hope you got to have a good look at, it's not what you always thought it was. Um, it's something very different. Maybe not as scary, maybe if you really think about it, a little scarier, but not traditional. If this is your first time watching a video, I invite you to enjoy yourself, like it, comment on it. I love to have questions and comments come up, even if you're watching this well after the video was taped, because I can put in answers to the questions, and it's a way that we can grow together. You can also check this out on YouTube. You can just go up to YouTube and search for Rise of the False Gods, Reverend Alicia Leslie, and you should come up with the whole series. So, and you can subscribe, and that'll mean you'll never miss a thing. So again, do feel free to comment or to ask a question. I may or may not see it in the course of the discussion tonight, but I will see it later, and I promise you I will get back to you. Let's get started. So last night we talked about the nature of sin as being not the simple curse of evil on us, but more it is missing the mark. It's an error. That doesn't mean that the effects that we generate through negative behavior cannot be pretty awful. Okay, now in Unity, which is my spiritual path, and we do believe that the same principles work in all faiths. So you don't have to be a Unity student in order to appreciate these lessons. You can apply it to whatever church you go to. You can apply it at work. You can apply it in your family, because the principles are there. They are always active. I'm going to just pause for a second. I think I paused the video. Hold on. Or I will cut that piece out when I am doing my editing after. Okay, golly, I'll cut that out. Let's get started all over again. I didn't like the light. The light was so harsh. I couldn't stand looking at myself, because that's what I'm looking at when I'm doing the video. Okay, so in Unity, which is my spiritual path, it's my primary path. I'm not sure if we've discussed this before, but most everyone has two paths in their spiritual development. One is called the primary path. In other words, you may be a Catholic, a Buddhist, a Mormon, whatever you are, that's your primary path. Mine primary path is Unity. That is what most aligns with who I am spiritually. Now, then we all have prayer and inspiration. So whereas I may be a student of Unity in the Unity Church, I still find that there are things in the Hebrew faith and Buddhism and Hindu, in all other areas, that do inspire me, because truth is truth wherever it is. Nobody has got the market cornered on truth, because it's principle. We can't make it personal. Back to sin. I seem to be having a hard time staying on course already, and I haven't even hardly gotten started. Okay. So sin is not personal, it's principle. It is how the law of cause and effect works out. A lot of people don't like to use the word sin because of the traditional use of it that kind of designates us as horrible and evil and separate from God, which, by the way, we never really can be. They might have received condemnation from their church, from their religion of origin. Maybe they were told they were sinners or worms of the dust or unworthy. And that can't be right, because we're all children of God. We can make mistakes, and we may need to correct those mistakes in order to proceed on our path of spiritual growth and, change our lives. But it says right in the Bible, that God created us all. We are all God's children. Just some of us are expressing it better than others of us. And sometimes we do well, and sometimes not so well. I'm reading because it's easier to make sure I don't miss anything. When we live in a way that is contrary to the commandments, we sin. We make an error in judgment. So when we make that error, we are sending out a cause that is going to have a negative effect. We have to face the consequences. It's truth or consequences. There's more to that than just a television show or a kid's game that used to be very popular. Sin is evil, we think. And in a sense, it is, because doing things that are not in alignment with spiritual principle are definitely working against us and others, not for us. But we don't want to say we're sinners, because that makes us feel shame and guilt. Nobody wants to be called a sinner. Which makes us feel shame and guilt, when all sin really is making an error. How could a child of God be bad? We were created by God, weren't we? Now that's a pretty hefty topic, because whereas we might not be inherently evil because of, for many reasons, many issues, we may do things that are very hurtful to other people, and that is not a good thing. So we have to overcome it. If you just start to say, I'm a sinner, that's it, I like being a sinner, you're making a big mistake. So we're going to name that sin. The word name means nature of, and there are many names for or varieties of sin. But without exception, and did you hear me? Without exception, an adverse action will receive an adverse reaction in kind according to the law of cause and effect. I remember doing a fun exercise in church one time when I was in pulpit ministry, and I got a couple of people up in front of me, and I said that I told one of them to push the other one, give him a little nudge, and to have the other one respond how they would feel like responding. Well, one pushed and the other pushed harder, and the other one pushed harder, and it went back and forth. But that was the idea, to show how, because of the law of increase, when we send out something negative, it doesn't just come back, the same. It comes back increased and multiplied, because that's the way the law of increase works. It's not this cause, that effect. It's this cause, that effect, and this cause, and that effect, because God meant for everything to increase. You see how important it is for us to do good and to be good, because we want what to increase? We want good to increase. I had a very disturbing experience this afternoon. It happens every day. It's not like it's a unique, disturbing experience. But I was watching something on television, and I saw they had commercials for upcoming movies, games, television programs, and they're all so violent. That disturbs me, because violence breeds violence. And it seems like we just can't get enough violence, and then we gripe about why there's so much violence in the world. Think about it, folks. If you want violence to stop, we have to stop being violent. I know, we may not be going out punching anybody in the face, but there are many ways we can be violent. We can be violent with harsh words. We can be violent with gossip. So whatever you want to increase, that you do. What you don't want to increase is backward, and that is sin. So watch what you let into your consciousness. Okay, so we're going back to, I'm talking about increase here, and it says, without exception, an adverse action will have an adverse reaction according to the law of cause and effect. If the behavior does not change, the effects will get worse through the law of increase. And I thought this was a great point. If you put some money in the bank, okay, you hope you're going to get interest, right? I mean, they're using your money. They're making money on your money. Therefore, you should get some interest back. Think of the word interest, getting something back for what you put in. The same thing happens with our thoughts, that if we start to turn our interest to invest our time, our energy, and very important, our thoughts and our emotions into something, we're going to increase what we are sending out. Very important as to why you have to try to stay positive. Now, there are two ways to identify sin, and for those of you who are following along in the book, I'm on page 42. I know that on Kindle it's a little off because when they publish that, it just comes off a little tweaked. Okay. The two ways to identify sin are, number one, it causes useless, unnecessary suffering. Anything that causes yourself or someone else useless, unnecessary suffering is sin. It doesn't mean you're inherently evil. It means you're making a mistake, and if you don't change it, your mistakes are going to get greater and the effects will be more painful. The second one is it negates a divine idea. Let's say that I like to use love because that's a primary teaching of all religions, is to love one another. Well, if we gossip, if we lash out in anger, that is contrary to the divine law that is love. And what happens is you get angry, they get angrier. Think about if someone, came out really all over you, really yelling at you or putting you down or calling you names. It's so hard not to lash back out. But lashing back out, believe me when I tell you, is the exact wrong thing to do. That's when you have to take a breath. And then there's a thought. I don't know that everyone's ready to hear this, but they're probably not. You can think it to yourself that somebody lashes out to you, and you could say to them, what is it in you that is so upset about what you think I did or what I did? Because basically it's about us. It's not about them. It's about us. I had an experience the other day where there was something came up that was like what the human consciousness would see as huge competition to my sister and her husband's business at the campground. There is this cabin company that is coming out, and they make cabin campgrounds. They have these little mobile cabins, and they bring them out and they park them, and then people rent them. Well, we have a campground. We have cottages. So that first Human thought. Please understand. Get clear. I'm saying human thought is like, oh my God, they're going to not want to come to us anymore. They're going to want to go to the other cottages. There's going to be so many of them. They're going to be new and shiny. But that is human thought. So first of all, I was like, oh my God, how's that going to impact our business? Human thought, knee jerk. Remember we talked about knee jerk as, react instead of respond? But then I was thinking, well, I know, because I am a truth student, I know that God's going to bless us. We are different. Every campground's different. You go to the one that feeds your soul, whatever one it is. There really is no competition in spirit. The competition's in our mind. So then I went to not being concerned about the business or anything. Then I went to being concerned about what my sister might be thinking, because she owns the business, not me. And I thought, like, oh my gosh, I hope she's not going to be upset. Oh my gosh, I hope she's not going to be worried. And so when I saw her, when she came into the office, we were talking, and I said, oh, did you see that article about the 4-H camp being, bought? And she said, yeah. And I said, did it bother you? And she goes, no. She said, this town needs something, And that is an absolute truth that I have said before. Did you ever notice there's a Dunkin' Donut in every corner and they're all doing good? If you're providing something good, they're all doing good. So my big error there was that knee-jerk fear of what would happen, what would my sister think, and it's all hooey. But I am, thank God, metaphysically trained enough that I can take a look and say, that was an error. And then you can change the error, then you can let go of the fear, and then you can be okay. So we don't want to negate a divine idea. There is no competition in spirit. There is plenty for everybody. Some of the other ways, like prosperity, is a divine idea. We're just kind of talking about that. If we think we have to steal, that is contrary to divine law of prosperity. God will provide. And it's very radical when somebody tells me about their financial problems, and I say, what do you have to give? Because if you want to unblock the flow of prosperity in your life, think of something you can give. If you don't have money to give, do you have time to give? Do you have work to give? Do you have energy to give? Do you have a casserole to give? What do you have that you can give? Because it is in giving we receive, not when we fearfully hold on. So to hold on, Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, said something very radical. He said, being poor is a sin. Well, that really upset people. Being poor is a sin? It's a sin in the fact that it's an error, because we were all meant to prosper. Now, I've said this before, but I'm going to repeat it again tonight, because somebody didn't hear it before. Maybe they'll catch it now. That where they're saying right now that 80% of the people, 20% of the people are unemployed, that means 80% of the people are employed. And the people that are employed are even doing overtime a lot so that they can cover for the people that had to be let go. If you are working and you have a job and you're getting by okay, share. Find a place to share. Share with a neighbor, share with a friend or relative who's out of work, because that's about prosperity. If you hold on to it for fear that you're not going to have enough, if this goes on too long, you're going backwards. God holds back nothing. We hold back things. Okay? All right, moving on. I'm hoping I got time to get through the first commandment, because we're going to look at the big 10. The 10 commandments, so we're going to take a different kind of look at them. We're going to look at the literal level, like my Bible teacher used to say, something happened. The moral level, how it applies to everyone, and the spiritual level. How does it apply to me and my life. So we're going to go through a list of the commandments, and we're going to look at them at those levels. And what I hope to get as a result out of this is that you will have a deeper, more spiritual understanding, not looking at the 10 commandments or laws as something to be imposed, but as principles that are lived and exposed as a good and happy and powerful life of mastery, spiritual mastery. Okay. Earlier I said that Moses brought the letter of the law, which is the written law, which is the idea, and Jesus brought the heart of the law, which is the understanding of the law. Now, does that mean Jesus is the only one that had the understanding of the law? He's my main man. He is my leader. Yet, I think the Dalai Lama has got a goodly amount of wisdom and understands the heart of the law, the meaning. I'll tell you why I couldn't be a Buddhist. You want to know why I couldn't be a Buddhist? But I shall work on it. Is because they practice detachment. And like a friend of mine's t-shirt said, anything I ever let go of had claw marks all over it. I'm trying to learn to let go, to detach a little. Because when you do, you have a happier life. Okay, so Moses brought the letter of the law. Jesus brought the understanding to the law. The law is the what. The understanding, the heart is the why. I'll try to keep as concise as I can so we get through the 10 Commandments in the next year. But there is, by the way, a list about Bible interpretation in the back of the book. Lots of resources. This is a very powerful book. You should have it. Okay. So, first commandment. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of bondage. These commandments were addressed to the Hebrew people, and they were in bondage to Egypt. Yet, it applies to everyone, because we're all in bondage to something. One of the things a lot of people are bonded to that they would probably do well to release their death grip on is their opinion. Our opinions, can prevent us from learning. It doesn't mean you have to throw them out. Just loosen up your grip and make room to consider something else possible. On the one hand, your belief could be validated and reinforced. On another level, you might say, like, boy, did I have that wrong. Like I had that wrong about seeing God as the guy in the sky. Now, that was hard to let go of, but if I make God a guy in the sky, I make God just like me, only bigger, stronger, smarter. God is greater than all of that. And we're children of God. We have a spark of divinity within us. And that spark of divinity makes us a part of God. It does not make us the allness of God. That's a mistake some people make. We are growing toward being a full expression. Okay, let's move on. So everyone is in bondage to something. What are you in bondage to? Is it an opinion? Is it a belief? Is it a habit? Is it money? Is it a way of living? Whatever it is it, I don't know. There's so many. I just think of them all night. But the basic interpretation tells us there is a power that is greater than our carnal, which is our little human self. It has the power to help us break free from bondage. Okay, so that's kind of the literal thing. The Hebrew people were in bondage. They were stuck there for a long time. Oh, I could go into a lot more about that, but that's going to be another whole, maybe I'll do a metaphysical Bible thing one time because it's like mind-blowing. Okay, so let's go back. We're going to start to look at the metaphysics now. I am is a statement of being. It refers both to God and to each of us as children of God. While we are children of God, we are not the allness of God. When we say, one of the first things I learned in unity was to be very careful about saying I am. Because if we say I am and we are referring to the spark of divinity within us, we cannot be sick. We cannot be angry. We cannot be weak, because spirit is none of those things. We can say, I feel angry, I feel weak, I feel unhappy, okay? That's a really good thing for me to send you off with, at the end of today's discussion, because as you go through the days, start thinking about how many times you say, I am. I am as the truth of your being, the same as the God, what is your name? I am. It's the nature of God. So, try not to say I am and anything negative. I am a beautiful and beloved child of God, mighty to attract my good. No matter what's going on, I know that's the truth of my being. Okay. Then it says, I am the Lord your God. That shows that God, divine mind, principle, Lord or law, spiritual law, is meant for good. It's our good. It's our source of good. That's why the false gods are false. They're not the source of our good. And just to break it down as simple as possible, ego and materialism, those are false gods. Our carnal, hungers, those are false gods. They're false good. We have one good, and that is all that is good. In unity, we teach there's one presence and one power in the universe and in our lives, God, the good, omnipotent. I know it's hard to look at this world today and say that, you want to say God is dead. God is not dead. God is here. God is working. We just have to learn to work it. The principles work if we work them, but we must start working them. We've got to elevate ourselves from the lower human thought and human emotion way of being, consciousness, up higher to the intuitive sensing, to that part of us that knows there is something greater. Okay. So God is good as the law. The laws or principles are intended for our good. The same way the laws or the rules of the road are there for our good. They're there to protect us. Okay? Just think on that. Think on that. Try to see these laws as guidelines, as principles, as ways of having a good life. It said, who brought you out of the land of Egypt? The Israelites were in bondage in Egypt. They could not escape their bondholders. In a metaphysical interpretation, Egypt symbolizes mental bondage to sense thoughts and material consciousness. And that's Mammon, the god of materialism, and Baal, the carnal god. Okay, there's the other ways that false gods express narcissism, worry, the need to control others. None of those are going to make us happy. Those are all human things. That's what we're trying to get past. Out of bondage. It was the desire of the Israelites to break free of the bondage that caused them to turn to God. They turned to God because it was so painful, it was so awful, and they wanted out so bad that they said, help us, God, and they were willing to live in alignment with principle. If you've been saying, God, this place is a mess, help me out of this, I encourage you to turn to that which is higher, to affirm the good. Because when we work the principles, they work. If we want to change the world, the change begins inside each one of us by living in accordance with these amazing, powerful teachings. Okay, maybe our false god is fear of failure. Maybe it's lack or rejection. Turn our focus to the fact that we are provided for, that we are good enough, that We don't have to have the approval of other people to know that we are good and wonderful people. So, as we turn our focus to the Lord, to the law, to God, which is all good, we can change the thoughts and feelings that bind us and find our highest good. Isn't that exciting? So if we look here, this is a simple way of me putting it, okay? God says, look, I got all this good for you, and it's yours, but you gotta see what I've got. If you look elsewhere, if you look to yourself and to other people to be the cause of your good, you're looking in the wrong place. I found most love, happiness, joy, and prosperity when I stopped struggling so hard to try to get it. You know what God said in creation? Let there be light. Let there be a firmament. So, try to let go of the things that are causing you to be unhappy in the lower life, the striving, and to know that the Lord, the law, the whole universe is meant to support us. And it will if we, let it. Tomorrow, we will do the second commandment. Who knows? Maybe we'll even make it to a third. I hope you'll join me then. Thank you so much for being with me today and sharing my journey. Bye-bye.